Ain't no love lost, I just move how I move. Jocking for position, I'm fighting ill too. Whoa, I got these niggas rattled, got these bitches so loose. Tell them on the tone while she blow on my flute. I got biggie dreams, give me the loot. Don't put no ceiling on me, I'ma shoot through the roof. Every day I wake up, I'm tryna blow it down. The speakers knocking, weed hitting while I move through the town. Discover what it's like to say fuck it. You can look me in my eyes and you know I'm up to something. Took a little minute, but I like who I'm becoming. Focused on getting mine, I swear that's all that's on my mind. My niggas ain't no ushers, they gon' let that bitch burn. Why you smoke so much? Because this life shit absurd. Really flexible as hell, she do yoga at the gym. Go ahead and grab your ankles, girl, let me see your bed. Let me see just what you worth, how much I'ma spend. Can't stop until my heart do shit, I'm here to the end. These niggas thinking like some locals, but I'm thinking like a mogul. You can hate me for a lot of shit, now all my acts been noble. Time is money, niggas, so I'm staying up late. No chlorine, but my eyes look like Republican states. Ain't no love lost, I just move how I move. You can look me in my eyes and you know I'm up to something. Ain't no fucking yes man, feel like Kyrie, ain't no puppet. Like the heavens need an angel just for stunting. Yeah, you know it's always a vibe when some real ones collide. Gotta keep some people around who know how to survive. Hustling like a nigga just arrived. Around the clock a nigga losing sense of time. I done been through some shit. Yeah, I've been through some shit, but I can do it for what it's worth. Can't show no love if the respect don't come first. Can't pay no mind. Look me in my eyes and you know I'm up to something. Ain't no love lost, I just move how I move.
All right, it's 10 p.m. Eastern time on the dot. Thursday evening. If anybody could ask for a more action-packed show today, it's me. Big things to talk about today. The blockbuster trade in the NBA between the Utah Jazz and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Russell Wilson's a big contract. How that also affects Lamar Jackson and his possibility of getting his big contract. We're going to touch on a little bit onto the Detroit Lions Hard Knocks. But first things first, though. First things first. Shout out to Silent L for providing us with a wonderful new intro. The song is called How I Move. I'm going to be sure to leave all the links in the description for you guys to go ahead and check it out. I believe it's on Spotify and all major streaming platforms. So you should be able to download it and listen to it. Be sure to go ahead and like it too as well. So shout out to Silent L for our new intro song, How I Move. Real quick, I wanted to get the audience's opinion. So I think we already discussed one of the fantasy teams that I have, where I ended up making a trade with another team in the fantasy league, where I ended up sending Mike Evans and Ramondre, I can never pronounce that correctly, Ramondre Stevenson, in return for Travis Etienne and Tyler Boyd. Personally, there's a method to my madness here. Like, I need, when we end up coming out with like two flexes in some of these fantasy leagues, like I feel like it's a requirement for you to have at least, you need to put running backs in those flex spots. That's just my honest opinion, because I feel like it's almost impossible for you not to walk away with any type of fantasy points when you have those kind of players in the lineup. And I'm going to tell you, when we ended up making the draft, it was a keepers draft. And almost everybody kept their first round draft pick. So I'm expecting my pick to come around because I had the last pick, and I have, like, when you have the last pick, you have the first pick in the next round. So I'm expecting my phone to vibrate and I'm going to know what it's going to be my next pick. But turns out it didn't end up vibrating. End up drafting Mike Evans in the second round, which I was extremely upset with that, because again, I like to get my running backs out the way. Like, I feel like running backs are the hardest kind of players to find in fantasy, you definitely want to stock up on those kind of players early, so you won't have those issues later. So that's how I ended up being in that type of situation where it kind of like messed up my whole draft, because then I ended up having to draft a quarterback a little bit earlier than what I was intending to draft, where I ended up taking Kyler Murray, which it was a toss up. Whether I was going to take Kyler Murray or was I going to take, who was on the board? I think Lamar was gone. Jalen Hurts. That's who it was. Jalen Hurts. It was either Kyler or Jalen, and I think I prefer Kyler. Again, guys already know how I feel about Jalen Hurts. I feel like this is going to be his last year if he cannot show that he could lead the Philadelphia Eagles deep into the playoffs, considering the fact they have multiple first round picks this year. But yeah, let me know what you think about that trade, and get back to me. If I didn't say so already, be sure to go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe button, and most definitely share it too as well. Follow us on our social media pages, Instagram, Twitter, and on our Facebook, TikTok. I guess we can go ahead and go with the biggest news of the day, and that was Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos agreeing to a 5-year contract extension worth $245 million, and it's $165 million guaranteed. Now, backtrack real fast. So 2021, Russell Wilson ended up missing some time due to a finger injury, where the Seattle Seahawks ended up having an ending record of 7-10 and missing the playoffs, unfortunately. But he ended up passing for over 25 touchdowns and 3,000 yards. So it's still pretty decent numbers for Russell Wilson. So I feel like Russell Wilson has a lot left in the tank for him to get this 5-year contract extension with the Denver Broncos. So the trade was the Seattle Seahawks were going to be receiving 2 first-round picks, 2022 and 2023, a second round picks of 2022 and 2023, a 2022 5th-round pick, and this is what the Seahawks were receiving. I'm sorry. And they was also going to receive Drew Lock and tight end Noah Fant and a defensive lineman Shelby Harris in exchange. Where they got in return was a 2022 4th-round pick, and they gave Russell Wilson in the package as well. So still, when I look at the trade, like I feel like it worked out for both parties. Unfortunately, Drew Lock didn't end up getting the starting job for the Seattle Seahawks. If they're going to go with Geno Smith starting week 1 for the Seahawks, Noah Fant, I feel like that's going to be a wonderful acquisition for the Seahawks. Like, they got some pretty good weapons in Seattle, where you have Tyler Lockett and you have DK Metcalf and Noah Fant. So I think they should be solid there. But looking back at the trade, I feel like it's a pretty even trade. Everybody wins in this trade. Just going back to Russell Wilson, got a Super Bowl under his belt went to the Pro Bowl 9 times and has an overall record of 104, 53 and 1. And the reason why we broke this thing down the way that we broke it down, because it affects future quarterbacks in the future as far as them getting contract extensions. So that would mean what we got coming up. We got Joe Burrow coming up. We got Justin Herbert coming up. I guess you could throw Tua in there coming up, and of course Lamar Jackson. Obviously, he's been in the contract negotiations with the Baltimore Ravens, and we've got multiple updates on that over the past several weeks. And it seems like the guaranteed money is the biggest issue. So when we look at the contracts, the top quarterback contracts in the league thus far, we have Patrick Mahomes sitting at $450 million for the next 10 years. Josh Allen got a $258 million deal for the next 6 years. Russ is now placed in 3rd, making $245 million over the next 5 years. Kyler Murray is going to be making $230.5 million over the next 5. And then Deshaun Watson is getting $230 million over the next 5. And now annually, when you look at it, Aaron Rodgers leads the pack with $50.3 million. Then Russell Wilson is second with $49 million. Kyler is getting 46.1. Deshaun Watson is getting 46 million, and Patrick Mahomes is getting 45 million. Now this is where things get complicated for guys moving forward as far as the guaranteed contracts. That's where the players are trying to take their contracts now. They want to make their contracts fully guaranteed. And it all started with Kirk Cousins when he ended up signing that contract with the Minnesota Vikings a couple of years ago. And it's continuing to be a trend. Like, we want to increase the guaranteed money. But Deshaun Watson, his contract is fully guaranteed with $230 million. Kyler Murray has a $189.5 million guaranteed contract. Russell Wilson has $65 million contract guarantee. Aaron Rodgers got $150.8 million guarantee, and Josh Allen has $150 million guarantee. So when you look at it, Lamar Jackson, what could possibly be Lamar Jackson's asking price for the Baltimore Ravens for him to be comfortable and the Baltimore Ravens could be content with? It's, again, I think the biggest issue is the contract has to be guaranteed. So it would have to be, the contract would have to be in total, the contract would have to be at least $235 million, in my honest opinion, $235 million, and the guarantees. The asking price, of course, is going to be the whole $235 million. The argument is Deshaun Watson. With the Cleveland Browns gave him the whole contract guaranteed, but there were definitely certain circumstances that came into play as far as the no trade package. They had to get a reason for Deshaun Watson to waive that no trade clause, and they ended up doing it when they ended up giving him the guaranteed contract. So it's an uphill battle for the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson moving forward, as far as them seeing eye to eye as far as the contract is concerned, because I believe we are less than 2 weeks away. Oh shoot, less than 2 weeks away now before we get to the week 1 opener. So knowing the Baltimore Ravens, and yes, I do read the comments. Knowing the Baltimore Ravens, they are not known for paying their quarterback outside of Joe Flacco as of late. I don't think they want to end up making that same mistake. But you already know how I feel about the whole situation with Lamar Jackson. I think it's a big risk giving Lamar Jackson the guaranteed contract, considering the fact that his number is called 75% of the time for the Baltimore Ravens offense, whether it be passing the football, whether it be running the football. It's a big risk giving him a fully guaranteed contract. And again, I think the Baltimore Ravens are trying to engage with Lamar and be like, yo, like, when you sit down and you look at the Russell Wilson deal, you look at the Kyler deal, like, nobody's gonna be touching the fully guaranteed contract of $230 million in the near future. So it's a possibly, like, you could possibly take maybe 190. Can you take 190 million guaranteed? Can we do that? But it's going to be interesting, because if he ends up playing out this season, the last year of his contract, and he ends up possibly getting hurt, I can definitely see them not giving him a guaranteed contract moving forward, a fully guaranteed contract moving forward, if he decides to sign an extension with the Baltimore Ravens. And then I would think that they would possibly want to put the franchise tag on him until they end up working things out with him after that. But it's definitely a messy situation, especially the fact that Lamar Jackson is representing himself, and a lot of folks say that it's not good to represent yourself, considering the fact, like, you got to take the personal aspect out of it. You got to understand the actual market value, and you just got to know how to play the game. So in the NBA, like I said, we got a big blockbuster trade today between the Utah Jazz and the Cleveland Cavaliers, where the Cleveland Cavaliers end up receiving Donovan Mitchell. In return, they ended up the Utah Jazz ended up getting Lauri Markkanen, Agbaji, and 3 first-round picks and a pair of pick swaps, along with Colin Sexton. Let's go ahead and dive into Donovan Mitchell. So it's time with the Utah Jazz. Average 23 points a game, 4 assists, 4.2 rebounds, 1.3 steals a game, shooting 44.1% from the field and 36% from the 3-point line. And the past 5 years, he's led the Utah Jazz to the playoffs. Unfortunately, I think, well, we all know what led to this whole retool situation with the Utah Jazz is their 4-2 series loss to the Dallas Mavericks, especially because of the fact that Luka missed some time, and the Utah Jazz were unable to capitalize on that opportunity and get a lead and get a series lead on the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I like this trade for Cleveland because Cleveland played such great defense last year when everybody was healthy, and I feel like also when they was playing in the playing game against the Brooklyn Nets, they just lacked a scorer, a guy that can just take a game over, and Donovan Mitchell definitely can do that. He can average almost 30 points a game. Turns up in the playoffs and almost averaged almost 30 points a game. And I feel like he can do that for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And people knock his defense, and I don't have a problem with his defense, honestly. He does take a lot of the bulk on the offensive side of the basketball, but I don't think he's that bad at playing defense. And it has always been rumored that Donovan Mitchell was going to end up being traded out from the Utah Jazz at some point. So maybe he just checked out. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he just checked out. But I feel like he would fit in. He would fit in quite well with the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially their style of basketball. They play defense first, and then of course the Cleveland Cavaliers get a guy that can go out there and get you a bucket, which every team definitely should get one. Now, on the Utah Jazz side of things, they end up extending Colin Sexton, giving him a 4-year, $72 million contract. After they end up pulling the trigger on the trade, the $72 million is guaranteed on his contract. In this past season, he ended up missing 11 games due to a torn meniscus. But when he played, he averaged 16 points a game, 3.3 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and was averaging 45% from the field and 24% from the 3-point line. So in 2020, Colin Sexton played in 60 games and averaged 24.3 points, 4.4 assists, 3.1 rebounds, and 45% from the field and 37% from the 3-point line. So the Utah Jazz definitely can unlock some potential from Colin Sexton. He could possibly end up being the guy in Utah. So it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting how the Utah Jazz have completely turned this thing around, where it's a possibility. I just looking at the roster, because I was looking at Lauri Markkanen. He could possibly be inserted into that starting lineup, and he can average about 15, get you about 15 points a game. He can definitely space the floor with his ability to shoot the basketball. Are the Jazz going to end up making the playoffs again in 2022? I'm going to say no, because you have a lot of competition in the Western Conference, and it starts at the top with the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. Obviously, the Los Angeles Lakers are probably going to be in the mix. I would throw Phoenix in the mix. Oh, the Clippers for sure are going to be in the mix. I don't know why I keep on forgetting about the Clippers, but it's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be tough. I don't think the Utah Jazz are ready. Now for Cleveland, definitely for sure. They're definitely going to be in playoff contention. Now, are we talking about championships? No, I'll probably say they're about maybe they'll earn a playoff berth, but I think they'll end up taking their one and done. They'll be one and done in the playoffs. They'll definitely be one and done in the playoffs. I don't think they can. I don't think they have enough for them to go deep against some of these other teams in the Eastern Conference, dealing with the Milwaukee Bucks, dealing with the Boston Celtics, dealing with the Philadelphia 76ers. So I just don't see the being a serious threat in the Eastern Conference. But real quick, the Baltimore Ravens mascot ended up having a knee injury, so he'll end up missing the remainder of the season. They are looking to find a possible replacement for this season. So if you guys are interested, I never thought about becoming a mascot. Like, what would that be like? So if you're interested, to each his own. You go ahead and check that one out. But that's it for this edition of the Not for the Bay podcast. Be sure to go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe button, most definitely share. Be sure to follow us on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, TikTok. This is Not for Debate, and this is Devore. I'm up out of here, man.
Nah for the bay. Nah for the bay. We don't care what you said. Nah for the bay. Nah for the bay. Nah for the bay. We ain't hearing what you say. Nah for the bay. Fire!